Love is Blind season 6 is over, and today we're going to talk about all things Love is Blind, from all your favorite couples to the ones that you didn't like. And I got my homegirl, Dr. Candace Anthony, in the building. Let's get into it. Cue my theme music. Hey Rebel, welcome to Untoxify Your Relationship. Here we will talk about all things healthy and how to get that toxic mess out of you and your partnership. I'm your host, Melissa Webb, a practicing licensed mental health therapist with 10 years experience. All right, let's go ahead and hop into it. Hey y'all, this is Melissa. This is episode 26, and I have a guest today. Yay, so it just won't be me talking. I got with me the infamous, famous, lovable Dr. Candace A. No, what's your middle name? E. Elizabeth
So
Anthony.
here's the wild thing with that. I literally just had this conversation with someone. There is so many spaces where I've been seen as Dr. Candace A. But the issue with that is that people who don't know me or people who just see the screen name would say like, "Oh, Candacia," and I'd be like, "No, that's not it at all." So I actually so I've been going by Candace Anthony, which is my full name, but I even changed that screen name because I was like, yeah, we're not doing that. But yeah, Dr.
Oh.
Candace Anthony is good.
Dr. Candace Elizabeth Anthony is in the building today. She is doing all types of things. She is a therapist. She was
Mhm.
my boss at one point. And we bonded over crab legs, which is
We
a very,
did.
very black thing.
And unfortunate that the buffets don't happen anymore, but that's another
I
episode.
mean, the Ponderosa done took that out, right? The pandemic. So, Candace, tell us about you and what you do.
Sure. So I am, like you said, a licensed clinician. I have a very small caseload because I always want to maintain um, active practice. But a lot of my focus now is on helping other therapists improve their skill set. Currently, I'm focused on provisionally licensed therapists because I won't get on a rant around my thoughts around how we bring people into the field. But because I am so passionate about it, I decided to focus on that. And so that is a lot of what the work I do now is so there's a workbook coming there. My website has been completely revamped to make sure that I am catering to the needs of clinicians because, I've always said that, therapists need therapists. And so I just am the walking embodiment of that now. So yeah.
Okay. Well, y'all probably like, why she on the show? Well,
Mm,
because
mm,
we talk about all things relationships on here.
mm-hmm.
And season 6 of Love is Blind just ended. And it's a doozy if you've been following it. So Candace, I think after episode 4, Candace texted me and was like, yo, I need to come on the pod and talk about some things. And I was like, say less. So we're here. So we're going to kind of break it up into little segments: pods, DR, the real world, and the weddings. So we're going to start first with the pie. So I know, Candace, you got a lot to say about the pie. So go ahead and let me know what you got to say.
I do. So here's the thing. I have always said every season, I don't know why I watch this, and then every season they release one, and I'm like, here I am again, back again to watch. I actually really love the concept of the pods, right? I really appreciate the thought of somebody having to strip away what they're used to, almost like leaning on or using as a crutch when they're dating. And so going into the pods is almost like a way to really get to the meat and potatoes of who you are, how you want to show up, how is it that you communicate your needs and your wants, and how you hear that from people that you are interested in. So I really truly do love and appreciate the experiment, or at least what was probably the initial premise of the experiment. I love the pods. Now, why they're getting dressed up to sit there, I don't know. I would definitely be the girl in sweats and chucks or, because I am not dressing up to get in the pods. I also understand the psychology behind that too, but still, here's my issue with the pods. You want me to go into my issue now? Or you want to?
Go
Okay,
ahead.
cool. So my issue with the pods, even in me loving the premise or the purpose of it, there's almost like this calculated approach that people take when they hear the responses from other people. And I noticed that more this season than in earlier seasons. I think in earlier seasons, there was a lot of just like, putting yourself out there and just having open communication. Season 5 was a lot of trauma dumping. We don't have to get into
Yes.
that, but that was scary. But this year it was a lot more calculated. It was almost as if everyone wanted to be loved by everyone and no one wanted to reject anyone. And I think that's why we ended up with so many love triangles, right? I get it. We're all here to date everyone. We're all here to try to figure things out. But there wasn't a lot of bold moves
Hmm.
this season in the pods. And considering the fact that people are moving toward getting married, I would think that we would have seen more bold moves in the pods. And that was my issue with this season.
My thing with the pods is, like you said, this is an experiment. So I think with the experiment, they make it so like the pods and even the trip afterwards after you get engaged is a
Hmm.
very controlled environment. Right. And so you're in this controlled environment with a group of ladies, a group of men, and we're just dating. Right. There's no social media, there's no friends, there's no cell phone, there's no nothing. Very
Hmm.
different than real world dating because we on here on, oh, let me get on Hinge, let me get on whatever,
Yeah.
and let me see, and then let me get on Facebook group to check out this guy to see if he's actually married or if he's actually dating someone. Can't say the
Hmm.
name of the group, I actually get in trouble. But there is that's why I had to slow it down. But there's so many distractions when it comes to dating. I think with the experiment, they strip, like you said, they strip all that. And you're
Hmm.
just like, hey, it's just you and this person. You can't see them. And here we are. My thing with the pies, and I see this every season, is that people get so blinded by the excitement and the possibility of getting married that they
Hmm.
actually start overlooking red flags or overlooking things that just don't align with them. So they get on the
Hmm.
show, they're like, oh my God, I'm gonna get married. Oh my God, I want to be someone's wife. Oh my God, I want my finger to be heavy. Right.
Barf. Barf.
Right? And then like for example, AD this season, she said, I am such a sucker for red flags that I paint my nails red. My outfit matches with the red flags. I'm such a
Baby.
fix-a hoe, right? It's
Baby.
like, if you know this about you, why we here?
But here's the other thing with that, right? Like, in addition to like everything being stripped away and it being this very controlled environment, like, because they're in the pods for what, a week, 2 weeks? Do we know?
I think like 10 days, two
Like 10
weeks.
days? Okay.
Yeah.
I wish, and of course, this probably it wouldn't make for very dramatic TV. But this is more so the clinical side of me speaking, the more therapeutic side of me speaking. Not only are you stripping these things away and you're getting to know the other person and trying to figure things out, there's a lot of things that stripping does to you as an individual to where you
Hmm.
have to learn things about yourself. And I
Yeah.
believe there were people in there that were learning things about themselves. But to your point, they're so excited and so focused on getting married, moving forward, being chosen, things like that, that they really didn't have the time to really let those learning opportunities sink in. And so
Yeah.
I almost wish there was like, a full 2 weeks or maybe a full 3 weeks of like, and of course, in my mind, there would also be a therapist included
Of
in this
course.
space. But it's like you're having to learn about this other person, having to learn how to communicate your needs, which could turn into you learning more about yourself. And there's a disservice that you really don't get to sit in that moment, because even if you were to leave the pod and go back to the living quarters, there's 15 other people in there that you got to talk to. And now you're worried about, well, are you talking to the person I'm talking to? Or how did it go for you? And then I can only imagine what happens as people start to get engaged. And it's almost like the Hunger
Mhm.
Games of like, well, am I going to get somebody and what's going to happen with it? There's just so many other moving pieces. And totally random. I would be really curious to know how they choose the 5 or 6 couples to focus on, because we hear every year about couples that did get engaged in the pods that we never see. And
Yeah.
so I'm really curious around that, but based on how these seasons have gone, I can only imagine what that criteria is and what they choose to focus on. So I won't go down that rabbit hole, but yeah.
Nah, I mean, I'm not either because I my brain is like, ooh, I want to do this. It must be something they hear in the conversation, like we gotta
Mm-hmm.
follow them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But back to like your point of the stripping away, and then like you're learning things about yourself as you're in relationship, as you're, I guess, dating other people in these relationships. I think that's what relationships are. They're mirrors, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
they just reflect off of, you see someone, when you're with someone, you see yourself in that whole thing of like, hey, I actually do need this, or hey, I actually want this, or I don't fit with that, or I don't align with that. And then
Mm-hmm.
like things can come up like trauma and failed relationships, whatever, right? And so you're right, they don't have time to sit with it. Like my homie Clay, yeah, I be hating on Clay. I actually like Clay, but we'll get to that.
You and you alone.
We'll get to that. But Clay, even in the beginning, I think Clay came on the show, and I don't know him, so I can't really speak for him. But
Mm-hmm.
just listen to what he said. It sounded like he came on the show just to see if this was real. Kind of like my boy last season who got with the other black girl. I can't think of the guy who worked with Nike. It almost sounded like
Oh, Brett.
yes, yes, yes. It's like he's like, I don't even know if this is real. Like, I just, I'm here
Mm-hmm.
just to see what's up, right? And I think that's the same way Clay was like, I'm here to see what's up. And then just as he was dating, I think a lot of these things came up for him. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's why at the end he was like, I got some work to do. And I think that's totally fair, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because he didn't know how to go. Also, with that, these people got what, a month to get
Yeah.
married? A month and a half is so much pressure, anxiety, worry, stress, whatever you want to call it. Like all that's happening at the same time. This is not normal dating. This is
Mm-hmm.
like accelerated cameras in your face. I ain't got to put on the front for the cameras. I always got a mic on. Like, I'm tired. I'm this, I'm that. I'm hungry. Like, old girl said she only ate cuties that one
Jesus Christ.
season. That was season 5. But it's a lot happening. So I
Mm-hmm.
I try to give people grace when they go on these shows because we don't know the whole background. We're just seeing the finished product, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, relationships are mirrors, people, and you're gonna find out a lot about yourself while you're dating.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else about the pies that you want to highlight? I ain't gonna lie, I be skipping over the pies. Like I kind of watch it, I kind of don't watch it. Like I be like, who gonna get with who? Let's just go
You know,
on a
the pods are
vacation.
my favorite of the
I
whole
hate
thing.
it.
The
I
pods
do
are my
not.
favorite because it really is. It's the beauty of watching someone really change the way and like change behaviors in real time and focus on like how am I going to communicate with this person when what I'm used to I
Mm,
can't lean on, right?
yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure in the back of their mind, like even though they want to like go into this situation or go into this experiment and really test out like if I strip away the physical part, how do I really find someone that I am, I guess I'll use the word attracted to, or
Hmm.
someone I'm compatible with. I'll use that. Somebody that I'm
Hmm.
compatible with because we eat with our eyes first. Like I
Hmm.
really think that is just such a shift in your mind and such a shift in the way that you process. That's why I love the pods. I just wish that there was, of course it's TV. So, we have to be able to we're being entertained at the same time. But I just wish there was more conversation around some of the more important things. I almost wish there was a checklist, right?
Mm.
So to fast forward a little bit, and then we'll come back to how it relates to the pods. When Clay talked about like not knowing AD's financial situation, I was like, bloop. To me, that is something I would talk about in the pods, and that goes back to that learning piece because it's like there's so many things that they figure out once they're on the vacation, once they're in the real world, as they're going to the altar, that they begin to think about that are questions that I need to know the answers to up front.
Listen,
And it's not like I need to know like what's in your bank account or anything like that, but have understanding what your values are, which is another thing. I don't know if all these people know what their values are. Understanding what your values are, you should be able to communicate with the person on the other side of the screen pod, whatever it is that you on the other side of the wall. I think they call it the wall.
hmm,
Be able to communicate what those values are and see if those values align. And I think the struggle for people in the pods is they try to lean too much toward characteristics that they're used to seeing
Yeah.
in person versus the values that they have, which really would, going back to your point, be a good reflection of them, or, be compatible with that mirror.
Yeah, no, it seems like no one goes into this situation without a plan, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if you're going to be dating, you need a plan. You need to know, again, my three steps: what you want, what you
Mm-hmm.
need, and your
Mm-hmm.
non-negotiables, which are the red flags, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you know what you want, you know what you need, and you know what the red flags are, you be able to eliminate people as you go because you already got an ideal of like, hey, he don't align with my needs. Okay. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
he got some red flags. Let
Mm-hmm.
me back away, right? And I think a lot of times, even on the show, in real life, if you're on Bumble, if you're on Hinge, a lot of times people just be out here guessing and just be like, I'm just gonna see what's out here, and then I'm just gonna be like, oh, and then it's like, then you get hurt, and then you mad, and then you talk about men are inconsistent, and I know what to do. I hate dating. Dating's trash. And it's like, well, you went in without a plan. That's your fault.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like
Yeah.
you gotta plan. You gotta
And I know
plan.
we've heard like different people talk about like, oh, what would it look like to have older people, or what would it look like, just, looking at different demographics of people. A part of why this becomes so dramatic, in my opinion, and maybe part of the reason why they're not going as deep as they could in the pods, is because these people are in their 20s for the most part,
Uh,
like mid to late 20s. And it's like, you're baby, your brain just finished developing,
that
right?
frontal lobe just
It
got developed.
just fused together.
But I think that's why I like Seattle so much was because a lot of the contestants were 30 plus. And I think
Hmm.
that's why you saw a lot of successful
Hmm.
couples because shoot, the black couple, Brandon, cannot think of
Tiffany.
her name. Thank you, Tiffany. I mean, they were
Is you
30.
down or is you down, girl? You better know these
Listen,
people's names.
I don't know nobody name. I just know the black couple. But they were like 36, 37. And then some of the
Hmm.
other couples like 33, 34, 35. Like
Hmm.
they were in mid 30s. I think that's why they work so well. The pies are the pies, and that's just what it is. Now let's go to the Dominican. This year they went to the Dominican. They got fancy. I guess Mexico kicked them out. They said you
They
can't
said
come
enough is
back.
enough. We've gotten our fill. Thank you.
We had 5 seasons of yeah. We are tired. We're
Hmm.
tired. Let's talk about Dominican. A lot of stuff happened in the Dominican Republic.
Hmm.
Your thoughts first. What are your thoughts on the DR with the couples?
I really wish, and of course, nobody asked me, but I really wish it went Pod's real life vacation wedding.
Mm,
Because you get to, we all experience this. This is not just a Love is Blind thing. When we go on vacation, like, yes, we have access to the real world, or, our jobs and things of that nature. But it really just becomes this, oh, look, we made the right decision. And, serotonin is popping and we're having all this fun and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, like, this is not,
yeah.
this is okay, fine. If that's the direction you all want to go, then fine. Um, the other issue that I take with, the DR, not with the DR, I ain't got no issue with the DR, but them going to the DR after, or going on vacation after the pods, is that it gives this very, not just blissful type
Mm,
of space, but almost like this, it's almost like a honeymoon. So that's why it feels so
mm-hmm,
premature,
mm-hmm.
which is also why they're just like bumping and banging each other as soon as they get to the hotel room. Cause it's just like, it's almost like this honeymoon thing. It's like, hey, here's your prize. Now let's see. And I get that they want the open space to be able to say, hey, now you've seen this person in person. Let's see if the physical matches the mental, the emotional, the cognitive that you experience in the pod before introducing you back to work and things like that. I totally get that. It just needs to look different.
Yeah.
It just needs to look different. And it just becomes this sexcapade. I don't know. Like, I wish it just looked different.
I agree. I never even looked at it that way of like Pi's real world, vacation, then wedding. I always just like, oh, we just go straight from the Pi's to vacation because that's what we do. We take flights, right?
Mhm.
So, and to me, again, this is another controlled environment with alcohol flowing,
Woo.
with a nice room, romantic getaway, rose petals, all the things. And now it's almost like, yeah, y'all make this connection. Now make the connection with your body. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, if you don't make the connection with your body, we're gonna talk about you. So you gotta make connection with your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, okay, whatever. And then also, this is when if there was a mask on in the pods, the
Yeah.
mask gonna come off
Mm-hmm.
in Dominican Republic, Mexico, wherever they decide to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this season we got to see some masks coming off,
Mm-hmm.
like actually putting people in actual situations of like, hey, insecurity, what you gonna do? Hey,
Yeah.
jealousy, what you gonna do? Hey, that person said something crazy, what you gonna do? And I think that's when we start to see like people real personality come
Mm-hmm.
out, because to be honest, and not to spend so much time on the pods, but I think people send a representative. Some people, I'm not saying all,
Yeah.
some people send representatives, and this is real life too. When you go dates, you send a representative the first couple of days, then you send your real self. Then that's when the other person's like, whew, can
Mm-hmm.
I deal with this person? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's what happened in DR. A lot of personalities came out, especially that girl, Chelsea.
Let me just say this right now. If you are the clinician for Clay and or Chelsea, God bless you. God keep you. I hope you are getting everything that you need and want to be able to show up for your clients. Because I don't doubt that you appreciate your clients and appreciate the growth. Because I do think that they had some teachable moments that they could take back to their clinicians, right? They have both openly shared about being in therapy. So I applaud you and we applaud the clinicians. Let me just say that.
Again, I would not mind having Clay in the chair. Like, I would not mind having Clay in the chair.
Baby.
I would not mind having him tell me his whole life story. I'd be like, oh, tell me more. Now, Chelsea, that girl, her and Jimmy, first of all, that should never happen. That should never happen. Should have never
Mhm.
happened. It should have never happened.
Mhm.
Second of all, like, she was on some insecurity and anxious attachment, like self-sabotaging, fear of abandonment, fear of
Mhm.
rejection. I mean, all the things. Again, Netflix editing, but
Mhm.
and Netflix editing, and like this some of the things she was saying. I was like, ooh, textbook self-sabotage. Ooh, textbook anxious attachment. Ooh, textbook, I'm super anxious and insecure and I'm jealous. That's the one where I would be like, baby, I would probably have a problem with that one.
Maybe we should take a step away. You know what's interesting? So there's a couple of things. One, you talk about this a controlled environment and things of that nature. I also believe that on the one hand, it sets an unrealistic expectation because
Mm,
we know that these trips are being paid for by Netflix, right? So the alcohol flowing, the beautiful rooms, the access to all the excursions and things like that. Going back to the statement that Clay made, and I'm not saying this necessarily about AD, but if you are someone that, does struggle financially, or you may not be as financially set as the other person, or what you would want from, because let me tell you, buy me a plane ticket. I love to fly somewhere, right? So it could set this unrealistic expectation of this is what it looks like when we
mm.
travel together, or this is what it looks like when we just have these blissful moments alone. And it's like, yes, potentially. And this is being budgeted by Netflix, right? So there's that piece. The other thing with the vacation piece is that now we're seeing in later seasons how they are bringing in people from or not necessarily bringing people in, but there's more conversations around people who were also in the pods dating other people. I don't think we saw this year, I don't think there were any love triangles in DR this year, how we've seen love triangles in the past. We didn't see that until they got home.
Yeah.
But if I think about the conversations that are had when they're on vacation and the conversations that have been had before, there's this instant comparison between the couples of like, well, what are you doing? Are you all having sex? Well, how is the chemistry with you all? And that is such a dangerous thing because now we're reintroducing this comparison type of thing, right?
Hmm.
Like are we just as happy as you? Because, baby, let me tell you, Chelsea and Jimmy, when they were like, oh, we're perfect and everything's amazing, I was like, baby, the cameras are right here. We have all seen what you are doing. This is not perfect. But it really does go to show how, even in a very blissful place like that, how the added pressures of comparing what you have to someone else begins to show the cracks in your relationship, or begin to show the cracks in who you are and the security that you have as a person.
Absolutely. I was hoping you was gonna bring that up, the comparison piece, because I was like, yes, I was thinking it right before you said it. Comparison is a thief of joy, right?
Mhm,
And as long as you're comparing your relationship with someone else's relationship, you're always gonna be like, oh, I got to one up. I got to one up. And just like
mhm,
outside of Love is Blind, like we do that with social media. Like we like, oh, look
mhm,
at such and such. They I heard she got flued out. I want to get flued out, baby. Fly me
mhm.
out. And he's like, we broke. No. That unrealistic expectation of like, I want to have flights. I want to take flights. I want to take trips. I want to, have these Instagram worthy pictures or whatever the
Mhm,
case may be. And it's like, just be content with what you have. Be grateful. And I think, I don't know if they really did that this season. Like, it was a
mhm,
lot of like, oh, we having sex. Y'all having sex. Oh, y'all not having sex. I know Brittany and Ken, they had, made that promise with God and not to do that. That's fine. But all the other ones just like, nah, I ain't having sex. I'm not having sex. Just like, well, what are
mhm.
y'all doing? Have y'all kids? How big is its penis? So it's like, wait, what are
Baby, that conversation, I was like, why are we here?
what are we
What are we doing?
what's happening? What is happening? So segue. Still in DR, let's talk
Mhm,
about Ken and AD's conversation,
mhm,
because that is a topic that we gonna talk about in the real world. So Ken was with Brittany. They're
mhm,
both Christian. Ken is Black, Brittany's white. I think they're
mhm,
both early 20s, mid 20s, like 25-ish, something like that.
mhm,
They got together in the past, got engaged. Bam, here we are. They knew they were not the same color. They knew they was not of the same culture, background, none of that. They knew that before they got engaged. They got engaged, and here we are in the DR.
mhm,
AD is a Black woman. Goes to Ken and basically like, "Hey, are you happy?" They just chit chatting. You know how Black people do. We all kind of
mhm,
great to each other. And we talk, right?
mhm,
And so she asked a very important question, like, "Hey, she is white. We see that. Are you okay with a white woman raising your Black kids?" Pretty
mhm,
much.
mhm,
And it was like it was almost like Ken didn't think about that in
mhm,
at all, which
mhm,
goes back to, are we that blissful when we're in the pods? Or are we just like you said, the Hunger Games, like, I gotta get up out of here. I gotta get to deal. I gotta get this free trip. Let me go ahead and just get with someone. Like, are we not talking about values and aligning with our partner? Because you know she's white. You
mhm,
know when y'all have kids, you're gonna have Black children because your DNA is strong.
mhm,
We didn't think about a white woman raising Black children with natural curly hair and having these conversations about race and diversity and equity and inclusion, all those buzzwords. We didn't have this conversation in the past. And then you turn around and then you're distant to her because now you in your head.
mhm.
It's
Here's the
like,
thing I
what?
would think with that, like, the beauty in the two of them being together, and like you said, they knew what did she ask? Did she say, "What is the ethnicity of your parents?" I said, "Girl, just ask the man, is he Black?"
You
Because
Black.
they were very creative this year with how they were asking for physical attributes, even though the point of the show is to not know, but we won't get back on that.
Right, because someone looked like Megan
What
Fox.
child, but but I think the beauty in the two of them knowing that they were of two different races and still choosing to be together is that it was a decision that they made on based on how compatible they are alone. I think that conversation that Ken had with AD reminded him, hey, you're going to go back out into the real world. And
Mm.
yes, are you prepared for her to have to raise Black children, but also her having to raise Black children as a white woman? And she could be completely fine as a mother, right? I truly do believe that she would have made a great mother for Ken's kids, or Kenneth, which I don't know which one he's going by, but I truly believe she would have made a great mother for his kids. I think the question was, is she prepared to deal with all the stuff in society that
Yeah.
comes along with being a white woman who is the mother of biracial, I mean, really black, but biracial children,
Hmm.
right? And I think that started to just send him into this spiral of not just how is she going to respond to our children and knowing how to incorporate, cultural things and be, respectful of that. It also was like, well, how are my coworkers going to respond to
Mm,
her? How is my family going to respond to her? How are we going to deal with? And I think he even said at one point, as long as we're good, I can handle it. But I don't think he really could. And that's
yeah.
that's where that distance came from for me.
All right, y'all. That is the end of part one of Love is Blind season 6 recap with me and the homie, Dr. Candace Anthony. As always, tell your auntie, uncle, and cousin them about the show. Episodes drop every Monday. Tune in next time for part 2. Stay classy, stay non-toxic, and stay out of trouble. Peace. Thank you for listening. Go ahead and share this episode with your family and friends. Don't forget to check out the quiz to figure out what your toxic trait is. The link is in the show notes. Thank you, and see you next time.